Nigeria may be close to discovering a cure for the novel coronavirus disease, as a presidential task force says 3 out of the numerous claims of local COVID-19 cure in the country have been deemed worthy of further evaluation. And the governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, will be squaring up with Mr. Osage Izeyamo of the Oshomole faction for the APC ticket ahead of the governorship election in the state. Program. That is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Akimbaloye in Lagos. It's the midweek edition of the program. So in the next 1 hour or so, we shall be having this drive together for some of the most interesting political stories in the land today. Let's begin with some stories that may be cheering tonight, coming from the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, when they resumed their daily briefing today in Abuja with what appears to be some progress report on the search for a cure for the coronavirus. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation and the Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Mr. Boss Mustafa, says 3 out of the numerous claims of local COVID-19 cure in the country have been deemed worthy of further evaluation. Take a listen to him.
As a measure of the importance attached to research and development of local capacity for finding a cure for COVID-19, the Federal Minister of Health held a virtual meeting with a number of researchers and scientists with claims to cure of COVID-19. And out of the numerous claimants, 3 were found to deserve further investigation and have been forwarded to the relevant authorities for appropriate review. Similarly, efforts are being made by the Federal Minister of Science and Technology to subject a good number of locally manufactured COVID-19 equipment to verification and subsequent certification. In our briefing of Thursday, 21st May 2020, the Presidential Task Force categorically advised Nigerians against self-medication in treating COVID-19. Particularly, the use of hydroxychloroquine was discouraged because it had not been certified for use in treating COVID-19. We have read in the media about the side effects of the use of this drug from COVID-19 patients that survived, as well as those who took it outside clinical supervision. The World Health Organization has temporarily suspended all clinical trials of hydroxychloroquine as a potential treatment for COVID-19.
You heard it there. So there's been a lot of talk about local remedies and local solution to this COVID-19. There you have it, 3 of them. Let's look forward to see how this pans out. Well, there seems to be some very interesting conversation for you tonight. Get a seat. It's going to be a 1-hour interesting ride of information, education, and some political conversations tonight on the program. But first, let's get you a political roundup on the program tonight. The chairman, Senate Committee on Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Peter Nwaboshi, says no amount of blackmail will stop the Senate from investigating allegations of misappropriation of 40 billion naira by the Interim Management Committee of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. He was briefing journalists today at the National Assembly. Senator Nwaboshi says all allegations leveled against the National Assembly by the acting managing director of the NDDC and the Executive Director Project, Dr. Carol Jubo, are false. The acting managing director of NDDC in Port Harcourt on Tuesday alleged that the National Assembly inserted over 500 projects in the 2019 budget of the agency. The House of Representatives has commenced investigation into the maltreatment of Nigerians in China by the Chinese authorities. The investigation is being carried out by the Joint Committees of Foreign Affairs, Interparliamentary, Diaspora and Human Rights. Speaking at a meeting, the committee chairman says the committee seeks a veritable basis for the parliament to engage the Chinese parliament and advise the executive on the next line of action. And the trial of former head of service, Mrs. Winifred Oyoita, has been stalled following the absence of Mohammed Abubakar, counsel to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. On the 23rd of March, the EFCC had arraigned Mrs. Oyoita and 8 others on an 18-count charge of money laundering to the tune of 570 million naira. The Edo State Governor, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, says he is worried about the rate at which the number of positive COVID-19 cases is increasing, and this might lead to even more restrictions in the state. Mr. Obaseki disclosed this during the commissioning of the isolation center at the Stella Obasanjo Hospital in Benin City, the Edo State capital.
It is far from Uhuru. It is serious, and we will have to enforce social distancing rules very, very drastically in Edo State.
There are a few conversations that we'll be having tonight on the program. We look at the Edo governorship race, the APC ticket. There seems to be a narrowed down race now between the governor, the incumbent governor, and Mr. Osage Izeyamo. Tonight we'll be speaking with Mr. Osage Izeyamo on the program. Again, we'll look at the issue of the power electricity in Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari has given an order today. We look at what it means and the plans for power in Nigeria, and of course a few other issues as pertaining to the presidency. We'll get a presidential spokesperson to speak to us on the program. But first, let's look at this. President Muhammadu Buhari, a few days ago, signed into law Executive Order number 10 of 2020 for the implementation of financial autonomy of state legislature and state judiciary. In the intent of that executive order is for the implementation of financial autonomy of the state legislature and state judiciary, which will strengthen the institutions at the state tier of government and make them more independent and accountable in line with the tenets of democracy as enshrined by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. The order provides that the Accountant General of the Federation shall by this order and such any other orders, regulations, or guidelines may be issued by the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice authorize the deduction from source in the course of Federation accounts allocation from the money allocated to any state of the Federation. I guess you are understanding where this is going to. The state governors at the teleconference today are meant to discuss these issues and how it will all pan out. There's been some conversations that the state judiciary and the legislature are the base of the governors, that they overwhelm these aspects of the democracy in the state. But what does this mean? Let's get some legal perspectives to these matters. I'm being joined tonight on the program by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana. He's the Chair of Alliance on Surviving COVID-19 and Beyond. Thank you so much, Senior Advocate, for joining us tonight. It's Children's Day. It will be right for us to start a conversation around children and what this means for the future of this country. A lot of them are on the street of Nigeria. A lot of them are like Almajiris on the street of northern Nigeria. A lot of them are out of school. Millions of them, as the United Nations have claimed in the figures released. What are your fears about children on a day as this, especially their rights?
Well, as far as the Constitution is concerned, there shall be free and compulsory education for Nigerians. Section 18 guarantees free education as and when necessary by the state. That's for the ruling class to determine when it is necessary. But because of prayer mounted on the neo-colonial state since 1999, I think by 2003, Nigeria,
Mr. Falano, let's try to resolve the clarity of our connection there, and we will come back in a moment because there seems to be some clarity issues there, but we'll fix that shortly and come back. Let's go to our Abuja studio where we'll be talking about Mr. Osage Izeyamo, who has emerged as a consensus candidate of the Oshomole-led faction of the All Progressives Congress APC in Edo State to contest for the ticket of the party ahead of the governorship election in that state. Channel Television gathered that Mr. Izeyamo was named in the Abuja meeting of the group with the committee set up by the Oshomole group to screen about 8 aspirants from the group. The committee was set up to help the faction agree on a common front. The agreed candidate has obtained the nomination form of the party today ahead of the primaries. Mr. Izeyamo will be squaring up at the primaries with the incumbent governor, Godwin Obaseki, who has been at loggerheads with his predecessor over the past months, a matter which has generated a series of political crises within the APC. Last week, a former national chairman of the APC, Chief John Oyegun, disclosed that the President, Muhammadu Buhari, said Edo and Ondo state governors who are serving out their first terms should be given a chance of forced refusal in the race. Mr. Izeyamo was the Edo PDP candidate at the last governorship election in the state. He returned to the APC in November last year. Earlier today on Channels Television, the governor, Godwin Obaseki, says he's confident of returning to power as the first man of the state because power comes from God. Let's speak with Mr. Izeyamo. He joins us from Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Izeyamo, for joining us tonight on the program. You have emerged as the consensus candidate from the Oshomole faction, but are you aware of the fact that the president wants a chance of forced refusal from Mr. Godwin Obaseki?
Well, Sheung, I want to thank you for inviting me to your program, but let me quickly correct a misconception, and that is the label Oshomole faction. There's nothing like that. Oshomole is not in any faction in Edo State. Oshomole, as of today, remains the national chairman of the APC. So if the governor has problems with him, that does not mean that those who respect his position as national chairman belong to a faction led by him. Adams Oshomole is not leading any faction, and I think it's a very wrong label, and I want to appeal to channels to remove that label. Yes, Godwin Obaseki, the governor of the state, wants to come back as governor, and yes, a lot of the leaders of the APC in the state do not agree with that, but that does not mean that those who do not agree with him belong to a faction led by the national chairman. I think that basically is an insult because he has conducted himself as a national chairman, and if the governor is perturbed by his refusal to do what he did for him the first time, which is more or less impose him on the people, he does not want to do that anymore, there's no reason why anybody should say that it's leading a faction in Edo State. It's not leading a faction in Edo State. We have a right to aspire, and the statement you alluded to by Chief Odige Oyegun has not been corroborated by anybody. And of course, you know that the president that we have is not the kind of president that will make such a statement. It's a president we know who is determined to ensure that we have democracy in our country. People are allowed to aspire for positions. And today, I want to collect the APC form. If truly the president had closed the door, I'm sure that they will not even sell forms to anybody. But they are selling forms, not only to me, but as many people as want to buy forms. So that would tell you that there's no such instruction, and there can never be. Is the governor who has said that his second term is non-negotiable? I'm surprised he's not bringing God into it, because a man who says my second term is non-negotiable is telling you that even God cannot interfere, that his second term is beyond God, it's beyond the party, and nobody can say anything about it. And maybe that's the crux of the problem, because he believes that he has gone into a position where nobody can even suggest to him that he cannot come back. But he doesn't own Edo State. And the party that put him there, they have a right to determine who will go there again. And the exercise must be a free and transparent one. So the so-called suggestion that the president said that they have the right of first refusal is false. There's no such statement, please.
Okay, let's clarify, because what journalism is all about is fact and the truth. There is a fact that Mr. Adams Oshiomhole is a national chairman of the APC. That's a fact, isn't it? There is also a fact, I may be corrected if you think it's wrong, that you do not agree with the Godwin Obaseki. You are members of the same party, but you do not agree. So what better language do you suggest could be used other than faction? Because I stand to be corrected. You are a group within the APC under the Oshiomhole leadership, and there is another group loyal to the Godwin Obaseki, the governor of the party. So other than the word faction, what word do you think is applicable so that we can use it going forward, Mr. Isayamo?
This is not the first time that we have persons contesting for one office. It's normal in a democracy. You have a lot of people contesting for governor, for senate. That does not suggest that the party is factionalized. It only means that they have a lot of people who are vying for the same office. And of course, by the time the primaries are over, everybody will unite and come together. And that's the same thing I think will also happen in Edo. And then number two, what I find wrong is trying to bring the national chairman into it. The kind of leaders we have in Edo State are leaders who are strong in their own right. And if they believe that the governorship of the party cannot be the birthright of the incumbent governor, it would be very wrong for anybody to suggest that they are doing so because they belong to Adams Oshiomhole's faction. They brought him from nowhere before, and they have a right to also say that, well, they want to look elsewhere. The reality is that the APC in Edo had the choice of losing the state to the opposition or changing the governor. And I think majority of the leaders have the opinion that the party must not be lost to the opposition, but rather the governor who does not believe that the party exists should give way for somebody that can carry the party along and at the same time govern the state well. Because I can tell you that in the past 1-2 years, the state has been shut down by unnecessary tension. And all this tension arises from the governor's posture that his second term is not negotiable. Yes, he has a right to run for second term, but that should not be at the detriment of governance. Governance has taken a back seat, nothing is happening, and all we see are talks being mobilized, either to the airport to scare away political opponents, or you are calling rallies and you are saying nobody can hold rallies, or you are bulldozing houses of people who are opposed to you. You can't do such things and expect that investors will come to your state. World Bank projects in Edo State have come to a halt. Nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. I'm ashamed to see the figures that the governor is now recording for COVID-19. At the beginning, we all warned him, lock down the state, he refused, and said the economy of the state is such that it cannot be locked down. Yet Lagos locked down, Delta locked down, Rivers locked down, and he was talking about an economy that is non-existent because you've done nothing to encourage it. Instead, your statements are scaring away potential investors. So what you are even talking about is self-created, and it's unfortunate. So coming to talk about Adams Oshiomhole is an insult. Adams Oshiomhole, for God's sake, is the national chairman of the party.
Yeah, let's take a break. And when we come back, there are more issues to talk about on your journey to this point and going forward in the APC and ahead of the governorship election. We still have Mr. Femi Falana on the program. Of course, Mr. Femi Adesina will also be joining us later on the show. Don't go anywhere. We just got started. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on the program. Let's get back to our conversation with Mr. Osagie Isayamo, popularly called Pastor Isayamo, a politician, and now he's obtained the nomination form of the APC to contest in the governorship election. He will be squaring up against the incumbent governor, Godwin Obaseki, at the primaries. Thank you so much, Mr. Isayamo, for joining us tonight. It is a political convention world over where presidential system of government is operated or democratic system of government is operated, where you give an incumbent a chance of forced refusal when there's a possibility of a renewal of office. Do you think it's right to give Mr. Obaseki a chance of forced refusal?
Well, Sheun, let me again, I'm sorry, but in mentioning my name, you said Mr. Osegi Ezeamu, popularly called Pastor Ezeamu. I'm a pastor in the Redeemed Christian Church of God, a senior pastor. So it's not a question about being popularly called. It's an ordination from the Redeemed Christian Church of God, and I'm a practicing pastor and Christian, politics aside. So I would like to just quickly clarify that. Whatever you want to say, you need to look at the constitution of the APC. You talk about convention in the absence of a constitution. The constitution of the APC, which I was privileged to be one of those who drafted, do not recognize what you call the right of first refusal. If you want to contest for an election, whether you've been there before or you've not been there before, you must go through the process. If you are popular and you have a record, it gives you a good advantage to be able to win the race. But to expect that because you are an incumbent, automatically others will step aside for you, is not in the constitution of the APC. So you cannot be talking about the convention when you have a written constitution. The constitution of the APC is quite clear. And I'm sure you are not telling us that we should drop the constitution of the APC and begin to follow what you call the convention. The convention is clear, and performance is subjective. I listened to the tape just now when the governor said, oh, Edo people think have done well. I'm an Edo person. To be honest with you, I don't think so. And there are very many people like me who don't think so. So it's natural for somebody to think he's dancing well, but a lot of times you need to listen to those who are watching you and get the correct opinion. I can tell him very clearly and dispassionately that for majority of us, he has not done well. We have even shied away from criticizing him because we're in the same party. If we were in opposite parties, the criticism would have been a lot louder, But because we don't want to lose our state, it will be better for us to look for a way to quietly ease him out. And that will happen by the time we do our primaries. So there's nothing like first refusal. If he's very popular, if he thinks he has done well, then convince party members. If you convince them and they buy it, they will support you. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. The primaries is not going to be done by people from outside the state. It will be done by people in other states. So let them vote for you, let them support you, and then you get a second-term ticket, and automatically, all of us will support you.
Yamu, I would like to ask you, you seem to be confident about the primaries. Are you confident of defeating Mr. Obaseki at the primaries?
Yes, well, you see, the truth about it is this. Primaries are done by political parties. And those who vote are party members. So when you think party members are not important, when you think party members are not relevant, then the issue is who's going to vote for you. I listened to his telephone conversation just now. I'm happy that for a man who said the second-term ticket is not negotiable, now realizes that there is God and that God has a say. But at the same time, he has spoken with disdain about men. No man can do anything. But God has given men the privilege to vote for who they want. So if you say men are not important and men are irrelevant, just like you despise God at the beginning, and then you want them to vote for you, how are you going to win? This nomination will not be done in government house. Nomination is not going to be done by government appointees. Nomination will be done by party members. The same party members that you have insulted, that you speak about with disdain, that you refer to as if they are criminals, people who voted for you, people who risked their life for you. So how are you going to win? So he is the one that needs to be rigged in to be able to win. In a free and fair election, there's no way he can stand. There's no way. So I'm very confident that by the time we do the primaries, I will emerge as the candidate. There's no doubt about it.
Quickly, Mr. Isayamo, which mode of primaries would you prefer? Because we understand that there's an adoption of the direct mode of primaries.
Not a question of preference. you cannot be contesting and want to determine what the rules will be. You must subject yourself to the rules. And the rules will come from the party. The constitution of the APC is quite clear. The National Working Committee, they are the ones to organize primaries. And of course, they have three options. It could be consensus, which of course, the governor has made impossible by his attitude. It could be direct, it could be indirect. For me, any of these options is acceptable. But from what I've heard, the party in their wisdom have said they want direct primaries. And I'm surprised that the governor and some of his people are talking about indirect primaries. And what even makes it more shocking is the fact that they want to use COVID-19 as an excuse. If it's COVID-19 you want to talk about, then indirect primaries is a no-no. Because indirect primaries means bringing delegates, thousands of them, to one place. That is dangerous. On the other hand, if you are doing direct primaries, it means you want to decentralize the process and move the numbers to their different wards in such a way that it will become manageable. And that by the time you follow social distancing and all the protocols, you'll be able to do that thing effortlessly. But what they don't even understand is that to be able to do indirect primaries, you need to elect delegates. How do you elect delegates? You have to go and vote for them in the ward, which is the same thing as direct primaries. So maybe they don't understand what it means to do indirect. To do indirect means that you must first do direct before you do indirect.
Because of our time, we have to touch on one or two more issues. But you, the man you're working with now, the national chairman of the APC, Mr. Adams Oshiomhole, you were a political arch rival to this man 4 years ago or so when you contested on the platform of the PDP. 7 years ago when he was also seeking a re-election, you fought him very hard. Between now and then, what has changed?
You are mistaken, Shehu. Normally you have the facts, but you are mistaken. The 7 years ago when he was seeking re-election, I was the director general of his campaign. I was not fighting him.
You left at some point.
For your information, he won the 18 local governments. We won everywhere in the state, working together. So two of us have worked together in his first election, in his second election. I didn't have any problem supporting him in his first or second election. The problems that led to my leaving the party had to do with the congresses that we did, which had nothing to do with his coming in or going. And of course, you know that disagreements is normal in politics. Even in families, you disagree. That does not change who you are. So the fact that I disagreed with Comrade when I was contesting for election, and who was Comrade supporting? The governor now who says that he's a nobody was the person he had to do everything to support. And of course, I don't feel bad because whatever he said about me was meant to ensure that I didn't emerge. There's no way he would have allowed me, coming from another party, to come and take the governorship from his own party in the state. So what he did to me was fair. It was fair in war. And I hold no grudge about it. Okay, and whatever I said that time, either to defend myself or to attack him, was said in the same spirit.
So again, Mr. Isayam, a quick one. Sorry, apologies to butt in.
Yes.
You were in the PDP. For some of the members or your friends in the PDP who saw you're leaving the party as a betrayer, the question again comes that what has changed since when you were in PDP and now the party, APC, that you strongly criticized at the time?
Mr. Sheum, the APC you are talking about now, I was one of the founders of the party. We founded the APC. I was vice chairman of the Constitutional Drafting Committee. The people you are talking about, including the present governor, they don't even know how the party was formed. I was there. So I left because of disagreement. And are you saying that if people speak to me and with time, I should not come back to a house that we built? It will be shocking if you tell me that, oh, Pastor, the house you built, a party you put together that today, is something to be proud of. You shouldn't come back. I had friends in the APC at state and national level who were talking to me. And I had time to reflect. There are many things you do in anger. And of course, at that time, I was very angry. But one has matured, one is a bit more patient in a lot of things.
Are you saying now, Mr. Isayam, I'm sorry again, are you saying that this is your permanent destination? Should there be any disagreement now, would you still leave?
You see, with age, you mature and you tolerate a lot of things. Patience. I'll tell you quite frankly, when I play back why I left, I realized that I shouldn't have bothered, I shouldn't have left. It was just a temporary situation, but sometimes, again, you listen to your followers. For me right now, I'm not yet 60, but in my 50s, I don't see why I should leave the APC. I'm very comfortable. I'm very comfortable, and I believe that this is a party where I can contribute my quota to make this happen.
All right,
my objective in politics
look at
remains
because
the same,
we need to go now.
trying to ensure that our people get the best in governance.
All right, quickly before we go, should you lose at the primaries, would you work with Mr. Godwin Obaseki?
Definitely, I'm a party man to the core. But I can tell you very honestly that there's no way he can win. There's no way he can win. In fact, that's why we're so many that wanted to run against him, because we knew that, beating him in the primaries was will be a piece of cake. Unless it's not Edo people, unless it's not APC people in Edo State who will come and vote during the primaries. If they are, then please forget it. There's no way he can win.
Mr. Osage Izeyamo, APC, Edo APC governorship aspirant, thank you indeed for your time tonight on the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let's get back to Mr. Femi Falana, who is the chair of Alliance on Surviving COVID-19 and Beyond. We now have him on the telephone. Mr. Falana, apologies before you went off on that Skype connection, which wasn't quite clear. You were talking about child rights in Nigeria and the situation of things.
Which matter now?
The child rights. You were talking about the situation of children, Nigerian children on the street, those ones who are out of school and their rights. You did say at the time that every Nigerian child has a right to be in school.
Yeah, that is in line with the provisions of the Child Rights Act and the UBEC Act. These are federal enactments which have been adopted by 25 states. But sadly, 11 states in the north have refused to adopt the Child Rights Law. And therefore, in those states, it is said that it is not compulsory for children to be enrolled in school. But there are two judgments, one from the ECOWAS Court and one from the Federal High Court, to decide that every Nigerian child should have access to education from primary to junior secondary school. But because of the failure of some of the state governments to promote education at the level of primary and junior secondary school, we currently have about 16 million children roaming the street. Out of this population, bandits and terrorists and kidnappers recruit a lot of them. And it's very sad for the country. So the question of the Amajiri or the legal deportation of Amajiri to their so-called state of origin cannot be justified under the Constitution that guarantees the right of any Nigerian to stay, to reside in any state of his or her choice. What this governor should have done, was to decide collectively how to enroll these children in school.
All right, Mr. Falana, let's get your view on the Executive Order number 10 of 2020, which basically talks about financial autonomy of state legislature and state judiciary. Some legal opinions have come to the fore to say that, look, this is not a new development. It's it's been enshrined in our Constitution. There is the monies that goes into this tier of government should come directly from source. What is your view of the President's signature on the Executive Order 10?
With profound respect, those who are talking of constitutional infraction by the President have not really examined the relevant provisions of the Constitution. Section 162, subsection 9, and this has been with us since 1999, provides that any amount standing to the credit of the judiciary, and that means state and federal judiciary, shall be paid directly to the National Judicial Council for disbursement to the heads of court established for the federal government and the state government under Section 6 of the Constitution. That is the provision of Section 169, 162 subsection 9. Furthermore, if we go to the third schedule of the Constitution, paragraph G, on establishing the National Judicial Council or the functions of the National Judicial Council, pursuant to section 153 of the Constitution, it provides that the National Judicial Council shall collect, control, and disburse all monies, capital, and expenditure for the judiciary of the country, again, for the federal and state judiciary. That has been the practice since 1999. But what happened with respect to the state or the federal and state government was that the budget of the judiciary became the business of the executive to release money to the judiciary when it suits the executive. And so, two cases were filed in court, one by the Judicial Staff Union of Nigeria and one by Mr. Olisa Adakoba. Both cases upheld the right of the judiciary to receive their money directly from the Federation account. So, but these judgments were ignored. What then happened was in 2017, there was an opportunity to amend the Constitution. So Section 121 of the Constitution was further amended to provide that the budget of the judiciary and the legislature in the state shall be on the first line charge. So what the president, again, that's 3 years ago, that provision has not been complied with. What the president has therefore done, since he has a duty to ensure the enforcement of all the provisions of the Constitution, was to issue an executive order last week to the effect that where a state government refuses to allow the budget of the judiciary and the legislature in the state to be paid to them directly, the Accountant General of the Federation shall deduct the money from source. Again, for me, that's in line with section 162, subsection 9. So that's one cry about the need to ensure compliance with it.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria and the Chair of Alliance on Surviving COVID-19 and Beyond. Thank you indeed for your thought tonight. Well, let's take a break. And when we come back, Mr. Femi Adesina will be joining us and talking about the deal with Siemens. The president has directed the Ministries of Power, Finance, and the Bureau of Public Enterprise to conclude on that engagement on that issue of power supply. We'll get more on that when we return from this break, everyone. Join us again. Welcome back, everyone. President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the Ministries of Power, Finance, and the Bureau of Public Enterprise, BPE, to conclude the nation's engagement with Siemens AG over regular power supply. The directive, which was shared via the presidency Twitter handle on Wednesday, was to start the pre-engineering and concessionary financing aspect of the Presidential Power Initiative, PPI. The PPI journey started on August 31, 2018, when Chancellor Angela Merkel visited Nigeria and met with President Buhari. Then the Chancellor brought along with her a business delegation that included the global CEO of Siemens, Nigeria and Germany, agreed to explore cooperation in a number of areas, including power. This is perhaps what a breakdown of what it looks like in brief, what was agreed on at that time. Phase one, it's going to be in 3 phases, as was disclosed at the time. That in the phase 1, we're supposed to be looking forward to a 7,000 megawatts of reliable power supply. And the phase 2 is supposed to be in 2023 to achieve 11,000 megawatts of stable power supply. And ultimately, the end of this deal is going to be in 2025, to drive generation capacity and overall grid capacity to 25,000 megawatts. The first phase, which is just a few months away, 2021. Let's take a look and see what the presidency said today. I'm being joined by the president's media advisor, Mr. Femi Adesina. He joins us via Skype tonight. Thank you so much, Mr. Adesina, for your time tonight on the program. Give us a sense of what came out from the president today and what we should be expecting.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we know that the power situation had almost been intractable in Nigeria. Governments after governments have tried, and they really have not been able to crack the puzzle which that sector has become. But the Buhari government is determined to make an impact in this sector before it leaves in 2023 and even after that, because from the timelines that you reeled out now before, as you gave the preamble to this part of the program, you will see that it went into 2025. So that shows you that it's going to even be a continuum after this administration. The intention is that Nigerians must have power at the domestic level, have power at the industrial level, have power everywhere, so that we can move the country forward, move the economy forward.
There is supposed to be a percentage of the counterpart funding which is supposed to come from Nigeria. What information do you have as regarding that? Is Nigeria prepared already, or has its own share of that counterpart funding?
Yes, if the president has given a directive that the BPE and the Ministry of Finance must do the needful, then it goes without saying that Nigeria must be ready with its own share of the funding, the counterpart funding.
So it appears there seems to be some delay because part of some of the last official assignments of the late former Chief of Staff, Abba Kyari, was his journey with the Power Minister to Germany. In this sense, would you say that we are right on track?
I believe so. If there are some delays, if we can use that word, it will just be maybe a couple of weeks, and we know what the world has been going through. The coronavirus pandemic has thrown times and schedules off balance, so it wouldn't be anything extraordinary.
When you talk about power, electricity, Nigerians are very passionate and they take it personal. Some of us who have lived almost four decades have barely able to see consistent power supply in this country. And if there is the first phase of 2021, 7 megawatts, are we going to be able to achieve that in 2021, Mr. Adesina?
That is why we are collaborating with Siemens of Germany. If we could do it on our own, we will do it. I'll tell you, governments in the past, they have all strived. They have tried their best. This government has also strived. But then came an opportunity to collaborate with Siemens of Germany, and we took it. It's also that we can achieve timelines and deliverables. And I tell you, yes, it's achievable. It's been spaced out. 7,000 megawatts, 11,000 megawatts, 25,000 megawatts. And with a reputable international conglomerate, I believe that we should be positive. We will get it done.
It's all well in the presidency, Mr. Adesina, because the PDP yesterday sent out a statement saying there seems to be some hostilities within the rank and file of the top echelon of in the presidency. Give us a sense of what is happening. The SGF released a memo which came out to the public about the fact that some cabinet members are quite not doing things in the right manner. Is this a worry for Mr. President?
No, I wish you didn't premise that question with what the PDP said, because the PDP is not a party to be taken serious now. Since that party lost power in 2015, it has been reeling in utmost confusion. And the 2019 election sent it into further confusion. So you see that the PDP just talks in confusion, at cross purposes. It says whatever comes to its mind without thinking it through. So I wish such a fundamental thing, you didn't pedestal it on PDP. PDP is not anything to take serious in Nigeria now. And I tell you that confusion is still going to last for a lot while, a lot longer.
Well, I mean, is there any confusion within the presidency, considering what the SGF sent out about some ministers who, according to what was sent out, arbitrary removers of CEOs of some agencies of government?
I wouldn't use the word confusion. I'll just say it's a straightening out of procedures. It's a matter of procedures. This is how things ought to be done. And I tell you, it's not as if it's particularly new or strange. You know that there are general orders that guide how things are done in the civil service and public service. So it's just a matter of reiterating how things should be done. There's nothing exactly new in it.
What more can you tell us? Perhaps the presidency is trying to settle some squabbles also. Is there any kind of thing happening, considering what we saw on social media between a top minister in the cabinet and a top member, a CEO of another agency of government? We've seen the sack of another CEO of another top agency of government in the ministry, and things look like there seems to be some trouble somewhere. Are you privy to the fact that maybe the president is trying to unite the rank and file in the cabinet?
I wouldn't call it trouble. Yes, in any enterprise that you have human beings, there are bound to be disagreements. But when disagreements come, they can be sorted out. So whatever the disagreements we have seen are being sorted out, and amicably too.
I mean, who is chairing or heading this resolution?
They are internal matters, actually. Internal matters.
No, is it involving the new chief of staff?
Well, you need to know that the chief of staff heads the villa bureaucracy. Anything that has to do with the office of the president and the operations of the presidency, the chief of staff is in charge of it. So if whatever you are saying has to do with the presidency, the chief of staff will necessarily be involved because he heads the villa bureaucracy.
So quickly, I mean, the resolution you're talking about is being headed by, is it by this SGF, or who is trying to resolve all these issues?
No. I have not said anybody is heading anything, but I know that things are being resolved. It doesn't even have to be done at that highest level, but people have waded in, and amity is being restored.
Mr. Femi Adesina, the special advisor to President Buhari on media and publicity, thank you so much for your time tonight on the program.
Thank you.
That's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Akimbale. Bye for now.